Hey everybody, I am Steven and I'm your resident music teacher. We've done music streams on this channel before, but today we're going to get into our first music lesson. So I'm planning on uploading some standalone videos and stuff like that, just exploring the basics of music, how I approach things in music classes. So now I know my ABCs is going to be the name of this video. So on the whiteboard behind you right here, I have what I consider to be, regardless of level, your first lesson. Now, if you're dealing with a student that is maybe 10 years, 8 years old and younger, you might have to break this into several lessons or several concepts. But what I try to do with younger students is I try to trick them into taking an adult class as soon as possible. So this, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be your first 15-minute lesson to try to understand the basics of terminology and stuff like that. So if you see up here, you have a drawing of a keyboard, and then you have some terminology terms that are going to come up again and again and again when you're playing music, regardless of instrument. I guess an exception would be maybe if you're playing the sitar or something like that, some sort of instrument that doesn't just use your normal musical scale, but that's for another lesson. But we have a keyboard up here, and there's white notes and there's black notes. The white notes are pretty basic. They're the letters of the alphabet going up to G, and there's no H note, there's no I, there's no Z. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and usually the first key that you ever learn is going to be C, and the way that you do that is you find your group of 2 black notes on the keyboard. If you look at your keyboard, if you have one, if you look up here, there is a group of 2 black keys and a group of 3 black keys. I think one of the reasons that, well, there's a few reasons that you would learn C first. The key of C is the easiest one to sound good in right away if you're making stuff up. But other reasons as well, it's easier to find on the keyboard. You find your group of 2 black keys, and you find the white note to the left of it, and that's going to be C. And if you see up here, I have, there's no end to the piano. I mean, I guess there is if you have 88 keys, it does end eventually. But if you were to have an infinite piano, it would not go to an H note, an I note, as I said. It would go up to C, or if you start at D, up to D, and it would just keep repeating itself over and over and over. A lot of people get intimidated by piano because like, oh, there's so many keys and stuff like that. But there are a lot of different ways to play each key, but there actually are only 12 keys on the piano. And if you want a definition of what the musical system that we are working with here is it's 12 notes that are separated by half steps. Now we'll get into in a second what a half step is and stuff like that, but just know that it's not that intimidating. It's basically just one pattern that repeats itself over and over and over again. So you got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then it goes back to C. Or if you were to start on A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this is going to be, off board or whatever. But yeah, it's one pattern that repeats itself over and over. Now, one quick tip before we keep going with terminology that will really help you is the importance of saying stuff out loud. Now, this is going to come up when we do a class on rhythm, but also it applies to notes. Everyone wants to be good at playing music, but one of the reasons that I've had so much success learning different instruments and understanding music is my ability to say terms out loud, and that starts with saying the names of the notes. Now, I just said the names of the notes forward or up, and I guess I should have written that this way is up on the piano, but in terms of pitch, that's up and that's down. Right is the same thing as up. Left is the same thing as down. But you're going to want to get used to saying this stuff backwards as well. So I just said C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You also want to get competent with saying C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. I think I did that right. I'm not sure. I think I did. So one thing, if you say, hey, what is the key before that? Or what is the key after that? My point is you're going to want to learn how to navigate your piano or your instrument both forward and backwards. So that's just one quick thing that I wanted to, that'll come up in other lessons as well. So let's learn about sharp and flat. Okay, if you notice here, like I said before, there's both white keys and black keys. And these black keys that are above or below, depending on which way you're looking at it, these are the sharp or the flat keys. Now, if you look up there, I hope you can see this, okay? it says C sharp. Well, this little pound or hashtag symbol is sharp, and this little weird looking B, lowercase b, is a flat. So if you look at this first black key right here, it's called C sharp and D flat. Now, you don't say C sharp, D flat, or D flat, C sharp. There's gonna be different contexts in music where you call it either C sharp or D flat. And it's called C sharp because it is the black note to the right of C, or up or sharp of C. It's also the black key to the left or flat or down from D. So it's C sharp, D flat. And, you know, we're not going to throw a bunch of huge words at you today, but those are called inharmonics, where it's one name, it's two different names for one note. Okay, C sharp, D flat. And you see right here, there's also D sharp / E flat, then there's E. Now, something very important is there are two. Now, the classical musicians that read music a lot and are sometimes in weird keys are going to tell me that I'm wrong about this one. But for all purposes of our class of learning like pop music, working as a pop musician or just trying to learn basic music, there is no E sharp. There's no F flat. There's no B sharp. There's no C flat. In that, on the piano, there are two white keys that do not have black keys in between them. Therefore, there's no E sharp, there's no B sharp, there's no F flat, there's no C flat. Now, when you're reading complicated classical music or some jazz stuff, you are going to be in some keys where you do have an E sharp or an F flat, but this is a 101 basics class. So for the purposes of this and like the next 20 videos we do or whatever, there is no such thing as E sharp, there's no such thing as B sharp, blah, blah, blah. But there is an F sharp G flat, there is an G sharp A flat, there is an A sharp B flat. And just like before, you're going to want to get good at saying all these notes in a row. Now, what do I mean by in a row as far as this lesson? I mean in a row as far as what are called half steps. Okay, a half step is going up or down by one key regardless of color. This is one of the most important things to get in your head before you even like start playing songs. Or a lot of people get down the road and they think that C and D are one key apart. They are not. Let me repeat that. They look one key apart because they're going up by a white key, but that's actually not one key. One key is from C to C sharp, and then another key is from C sharp to D, okay? So these C and D are actually two keys apart, which is called a whole step. Now, let me know down in the comments. This is my first music lesson video I've done. I've been teaching music lessons for about 15, 16 years now. And a lot of the times I'm relying on feedback from the person's face, or they'll ask a question or something like that. But if something doesn't make sense, or if I'm moving too fast, or if I'm not breaking it down enough, please let me know down in the comments of the video, because I don't really know who's watching this. I don't know whether it's going to be a complete novice that has never even heard of half steps before, or if it's someone that has done it their whole life, which this may not even be the video for you. For instance, I would not benefit too much from watching this video, which is maybe why I'm teaching this video. So if you want to go up and down by half steps, that is actually going up and down by one key at a time. Let me repeat it one more time for effect. Going from C to D is not one key. Going from D to E is not one key. However, going from E to F is one key because there's no black key in between. That is a half step. So my point about saying it forward and backwards, you're going to want to get comfortable saying this thing called the chromatic scale. And I'm going to go ahead and write that down. That's the one thing I forgot to write down. And since the name of the video is Now I Know My ABCs, what I usually do in class is I compare this thing called the chromatic scale to the alphabet. When you're young and you're learning English, you stand up in class, you sing this song called the ABCs, and you learn that this is the system that everyone is going to use for reading, writing, and speaking English. It's 26 letters, and they're separated by this thing known as letters. Okay? So the equivalent of that alphabet in music is the chromatic scale. And the definition of the chromatic scale is 12 notes separated by half steps. So back to what I was saying earlier, you're going to want to get comfortable at saying these notes both forward and backwards. And what we're going to do, and this is maybe I'll try to do a homework assignment for every single one of these lessons on YouTube, is we're going to say the 12 notes going forward, saying the sharps, and we're going to say the 12 notes going backwards, saying the flats. So this is going to be a verbal version of what we're one day going to play on the piano. So let's do it. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and you can finish with C. Now let's do it backwards. C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E flat, D flat, C. You're going to want to get pretty good at doing that. And at this point, I mean, maybe I can do it to impress you. I can do it pretty fast because I've done it thousands of times. C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E flat, D flat, C. Kind of a cool party trick, but you just want to be good at and fluid of navigating your half steps. Okay, that's basically the point of today's lesson. All music is half steps. Now, science nerds or whatever might they're gonna do some gotcha stuff like, they're tuned to different frequencies, and sometimes an A isn't just an A. This is what I try to do in my classes. And I'm sorry to call you nerds and stuff like that if there's anyone watching this video. But what I try to do in my classes is I try to operate in the realm of rules rather than exceptions. We will get to the exceptions one day, but you cannot have an exception without having a rule. These are the rules of music, or you might call Western music. And even in Eastern music, where there are smaller tones than half steps, they still have half steps and whole steps. They just have microtones, which are smaller tones than that. So this is a system that was not invented by anyone. It was discovered probably in the day of the Greeks or something like that. But this is how the human brain organizes music prior to any instrument. So it's actually a very fascinating system, in my belief, invented by God himself. So that was lesson number 1. Let me know what you guys think below in the comment section. I talk pretty fast, and I'm going to do more of these, but this was a review of the ABCs of music, which is a chromatic scale, 12 notes separated by half steps. Whether it's me, Beethoven, Jimi Hendrix, or you, the beginner, or you, the person that's been doing music for a decade, you're all going to be using the same system, whether it is to write music, read music, improvise it, perform it, or whatever. That's the system we're using, the chromatic scale. 12 notes separated by half steps. Sharp means up, flat means down, half steps and whole steps. And those are, the half step is the smallest interval. That's one thing that's probably is going to be the topic of the next video, is what are intervals. But just know that that a half step, one key, regardless of color, is the smallest interval, and a whole step, which is 2 keys, regardless of color, and the second smallest interval. I dropped my pen, and the interval is the space between 2 notes. So love you guys. I'm Steven. We're going to be doing more of these videos. Hope you have a great day.